Office on Violence Against Women, and I will be leading you through this presentation today. It should go by fairly quickly. We're scheduled to go into 2 o'clock. However, if there's not a lot of questions, we may end before then. Feel free to also ask me questions. You can ask me questions just related to CTAS in general with your application too if you want. But today is focusing on Purpose Area 5, and so we're going to go ahead and get started now. Just a few general things. The solicitation opened up on November 28th, and it's closing on February 28th, 2017 at 9 p.m. The Office on Violence Against Women. The mission of the Office on Violence Against Women, a component of the U.S. Department of Justice, is to provide federal leadership in developing the nation's capacity to reduce violence against women and administer justice for and strengthening services to victims of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking. OVW funding for Indian tribes or Native Americans. And here are a couple of bullets. This isn't meant to be all exhaustive, but just to point you kind of in the right direction. Consolidated Youth Program, are grants that support families in the justice system. Enhanced training and services to end abuse against women in later life. Education, training, and enhanced services to end violence against and abuse of women with disabilities. Legal Assistance for Victims Grant Program. Grants to tribal governments to exercise special domestic violence criminal jurisdiction program, which we call Tribal Jurisdiction Program, and that's one of our newer programs. And grants to encourage arrest policies and enforcement of protection orders program. Continuing with some other funding streams, Rural Sexual Assault, Domestic Violence, Dating Violence, and Stalking Assistance Program, the Transitional Housing Assistance Program for Victims of Sexual Assault, Domestic Violence, Dating Violence, and Stalking Program, Tribal Sexual Assault Services Program, CTAS. And please note, OVW issues solicitations on a rolling basis throughout the fiscal year. And for more information about these programs and to review current and open solicitations, please visit www.ovw.usdoj.gov. Purpose Area 5 under CTAS, again belongs to OVW. In terms of eligibility, a federally recognized tribe and or organization that is acting as an authorized designee of a federally recognized Indian tribe may apply. New applicants, applicants who have never before received funding from OVW or whose last award from OVW closed more than 12 months ago. Current grantees, applicants who currently have an open active grant award with OVW's Grants to Indian Tribal Governments Program, which is the program that falls under CTAS. Continuing on with current OVW grantees, if you have an award that's 2014 or earlier, an applicant who has a current OVW Tribal Governments Program award that was made in FY 2014 or earlier may request funding to continue their current activities under CTAS 2017. An applicant who has a current OVW Tribal Governments Award that was made in either 15 or 16 may not request funding to continue those activities or request for a new project. If the FY 15 or 16 grantee also has a 2013 or 2014 award, the grantee may apply to continue for funding to continue their 2013 or 2014 award. They may do so. Authorized designees must submit a tribal resolution or equivalent legal enactment or document from the tribe as part of their application. Please note that tribal governments with an award from 2015 or 2016 generally cannot apply through as a designee in 2017. Likewise, an authorized designee funded in 2015 or 2016 is not eligible to apply under authority of a different tribe as well. Authorized designees. Your resolution should authorize the applicant to submit an application on behalf of the federally recognized Indian tribe and state the tribe's support for the project and its commitment to participate in the project if selected for funding. Other resolution requirements. It must be signed by the authorizing official. It must be current. And by current, it must represent the year in which the solicitation you're applying for. So since this is CTAS 2017, it must mention CTAS 2017 in the resolution. It can't mention 16 or some other year because then it wouldn't be valid. It also must be sufficient to demonstrate authority for the application. So meaning that the resolution must show that you actually have the authority to apply as well. How can the funding be used? You can use funding from OVW Purpose Area 5 to develop and enhance effective plans for the tribal government to reduce violent crimes against Indian women and increase their safety. To increase the ability of tribal government to respond to domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking, and stalking committed against Indian women. Also, to strengthen the tribal criminal justice system's ability to get involved with stopping violence against women. And those are very general, but of course it's always on a case-by-case basis when we review your application to determine whether or not you can actually use the funds for something. Continuing with how funding can be used, it can be used to improve the services that are available to help victims of our 5 crimes, again, which are domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking, and stalking. And I keep mentioning those terms. I know it sounds repetitive, but one of the things that our office wants you all to understand is that when you're applying and when you're doing the work and the projects that you're coming up with, we like to see those terms and we like to know that you're actually working on solving or addressing those terms. So that's why we make it a point to use those terms as much as possible. You may also use funds to work with the community to create education and prevention campaigns that are designed to inform members of the community about domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking, and stalking programs. And that also increase the community's awareness about the needs of children who have witnessed domestic violence. Continuing again with how funding can be used, some other areas to provide supervised visitation and safe exchange programs, i.e. visitation centers, that allow children to visit their non-custodial parent in cases where one parent has committed an act of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking against the other. Also to provide transitional housing assistance for victims of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking, and stalking. In addition, to provide legal advice and representation of victims of the 5 crimes that I just mentioned if they caused or suffered by the cause of abuse. To provide services to address the needs of youth who are victims of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking, and stalking, and the needs of children and youth exposed to domestic violence and any of the other crimes. And but no more than 50% of your project should be devoted to this. In addition, to develop and promote legislation and policies that enhance best practices for responding to violent crimes against Indian women, including the crimes of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking, and stalking. Also, please remember to contact OVW if you have any questions about whether or not a specific activity is allowable before submitting your application. You can reach out to me directly at james.smith12, that's james.smith12 at usdoj.gov, or you can always email travelgrants@usdoj.gov as well. Either way, it'll get to me or someone in OVW. Other requirements that you must think about if you're awarded and when you're doing your applications. OVW is very big on confidentiality, collaborative partnership. You'll be required to submit a support letter that outlines that in your application, and you'll see more about that in the solicitation when you actually read through it. But victim safety and offender accountability, travel budget requirement, OVW requires, for instance, if for all tribes outside of Alaska, we have to see in your budget that you allot at least $20,000 for OVW required travel. If you're an Alaskan tribe or native village, that is up to $25,000 that you must include. And we will send budgets back and note that if that's not the case. Again, legal assistance, there's a legal assistance certification requirement, and then also the letter of non-supplanting, which I think is synonymous with most of the purpose areas under CTAS. Additional resources, we have a guide to understanding your OVW purpose area, which you can see at that address right there. The CTAS frequently asked questions, which are there. You can see the OVW template for 2017, and then there's also just sample templates throughout that can assist you as well. How many more slides do I have? I know I'm going through it really quick. Okay, all right, these are not.
Hello, James. Kara, are you still on the line?
Hello. Yes, we're still here. I just wanted to let you know where you could reach OVW, the tribal grants at usdoj.gov email address. Also, the phone number listed there is for OVW's main line. My email address is james.smith12@usdoj.gov. That's james.smith12@usdoj.gov. I'm also going to back up one or two slides because I think we may have been muted. So I just want to make sure that you guys didn't miss the last 2 or 3 slides. If you could scroll back up. Go back. You can go forward one. I just wanted to make sure that you guys saw these other requirements as it relates to applying to OVW. So those are there. I listed them, and I think I wasn't on mute when that happened, but I just wanted you guys to see those again. Here, if you could go to the next slide. And then these are additional resources that will help you out with CTAS in general, and specifically Purpose Area 5. You can, access those from right there. And again, that's the contact information. At this point, I'm done with all the slides that I wanted to go over, but we're now going to open it up for questions. You can ask, this is why this is focused on OVW. By chance, if you do have questions about CTAS in general, I don't see a problem with me answering it. But however, if we don't get many questions or there are not many questions, we may wrap up before 2. But at this point, go ahead and ask away, and I think we would like for you to type the questions, and then we'll respond verbally. And
yes, please, if you can type your questions in the question and answer box, we can go ahead and get started. We already have a couple of questions in there ready to go.
And can you guys read the questions to me?
Yes.
Okay.
First question is coming from Ann Cross.
Okay.
Is it a good idea to ask questions before the application is submitted to ensure an institution is eligible to receive funding?
Yes, it is always good to ask questions beforehand. You can do that by emailing the tribal grants email address that's still on the screen, or me directly at james.smith12@usdoj.gov. However, I must issue this caveat. I can answer kind of technical things that are in the solicitation, things about OVW in general and our purpose area, but I can't review any documents that are being submitted for the application. I can't tell you if you're on the right track or if this is going to get funded. I can't answer those type of questions because as federal employees, we're not allowed to do anything that would give a grantee an unfair competitive advantage that someone else isn't getting. So it's very basic, but yes, you can always ask questions.
Next question from Jamie Moran. Solicitation page 58 through 59. If a Purpose Area 5 applicant is a partner in a completed strategic plan under Purpose Area 2, will this be a factor given additional consideration for funding in 2017?
So I want to make sure I'm understanding the question. Can you just read that one more time? I'm sorry.
Solicitation page 5859. If a Purpose Area 5 applicant is a partner in a completed strategic plan under Purpose Area 2, will this be a factor given additional consideration for funding in 2017?
We will look at that. That doesn't guarantee that you will be funded under Purpose Area 5 for 2017 just because you are a part of Purpose Area 2. But it is something we look at along with the several other factors.
Sean Eastman asks, is there a break in the sound once in a while, or is it just my connection? Sean, I think it might be your connection. There was a break a little while ago, and I think we have it fixed on our end.
Are there any other questions right now?
Michelle Bailey is asking, we're considering including an investigator position in Purpose Area 5. This position is currently being funded by the tribe as a maintenance of effort. Expires December 31st, 2017. Would we be allowed to write in this position to begin January 1st, 2018 into Purpose Area 5?
So let me make sure I'm understanding this. And so I'm going to ask a question to the person. I'm going to pose a response back. Pose a question to the person that asked that question to. It seems like to me that, and if I'm thinking about this correctly, if I heard the question correctly, you already have someone employed in that position. And you want to be able to continue to keep them employed by writing it into a 2017 grant. And if that's the case, that seems like you want to use OVW funding to continue a position, which to me would almost seem like supplanting. And so I'm not 100% sure on that, but I also want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're asking. So for that particular question, I'm going to ask that person to email me directly and be very clear in what it is that they want to do, and I'll get them an answer at a later date after I talk to a few folks. Because I just want, surface level, it seems like a no, but I also understand that I may not be getting the whole picture. So if that person could email me whenever they get a chance, I'll make sure that they get an answer sometime soon. And my email address is james.smith12@usdoj.gov.
Teresa asked, can a portion of this purpose area activities include community education about elders' abuse?
Yes, I see no problem with that.
Okay, Richard Knott asked, is a domestic violence shelter considered transitional housing? Is a shelter operational cost an eligible project?
Short answer for the second question, yes, but I would need more. And then on the first question, it would depend. So I'm going to also ask that person to email me exactly what they're thinking so that we can get them a clear answer. And be very detailed in what they're... So basically, I want that person to paint me a very clear picture and be very detailed in the email, because what I'm going to do is coordinate with a few colleagues and see how we all feel about it and make sure that it's, we get an appropriate answer.
Great, thank you. Joni asked, being a small tribe, would our small demographic affect our application for purpose area number 5?
No, it doesn't matter how big or small the tribe is. We don't take into account that when we're funding you. We look at the quality of the application, how bad or what the problem is that you said you're tackling, and how you propose to tackle that. So whether you're a big or small tribe, if your application's good, if it's what we're looking for, that's all that matters.
Okay, Sherry Dakota asked, our tribe has an up and running program which was set up with previous CTAS funds. Does CTAS provide for continued programming?
It depends on the purpose area, and if this is for purpose area 5, that could be possible. However, I would, that person would need to email me. I would need to know their grant number. I would need to know how much funds is remaining on their project, when they were awarded last time. And I would imagine that if it's for another purpose area, they would probably need to know some of the similar information. So it's not a question I can give a blanket answer on right now, because it would depend on each individual award and what purpose area they were awarded under before. But again, if that person could just email me, what is your previous award, what year you got awarded, let me know you're trying to continue, and all that stuff, and we can look at that.
Okay, next question. I have a question on the $900,000 budget available for existing programs.
Mm-hmm.
Omaha Tribe has a 2014 grant that will end 9/30/2017.
Okay.
Does this mean we are eligible to apply for up to $900,000 to continue our OVW programming?
They said they have a 2014 grant, right?
Correct.
I'm going to attempt to answer that. Just give me a few seconds. I want to just look at something really quickly. So it's kind of twofold here. If the person only has a 2014 OVW grant that's ending in at the end of the year, then yes, they can. However, if this person has a 2014, 2013 grant and they also have a 2016 grant, then they can only apply for continuation for their 2014 grant. If they only have a 2014 grant by itself, yes. So short answer, yes. If I'm hearing them correctly, they only have a 2014 grant. The answer should be yes. However, of course we would look at that when the application comes in, because I don't have the application in front of me. I don't have all the pieces. I'm just going off of the basis of the question. So short answer seems like a yes, but it would always depend on what the situation is once we actually get the application.
Great, thank you. Next question from Joni. Is there an impact on the ratio of per unit cost on return of investment for a small program?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Are they trying to ask me if they're a small program, are they worried about whether or not that it will affect whether or not they're funded? Because I'm not sure if I get what they're asking.
Joni, we have the James Smith email address. You might email him in greater detail in regards to your last question. All right, next question coming in from Jamie Moran. Is there a list of all allowable direct service client expense items, such as for relocation costs for survivors fleeing for safety purposes, U-Haul truck storage unit, emergency or emergency food for a survivor when an income earner perpetrator is removed from the house due to arrest. Window alarm systems, these types of expenses.
There's not an all-inclusive list because obviously someone could ask for something that we've never thought of, but we would allow. So it really just depends. We don't, I mean, in our equipment and supplies, we list some things, but that's not meant to be all exhaustive. It's really meant to just be examples. So I would say for that person, when preparing your application before you do your budget, once you realize what kind of project you want to do and what issues you're going to tackle, I would say sit down and come up with a list of things that you know for a fact you're going to need to be able to successfully implement that project. And then at that point, you can email me the list of items or services you're thinking about including in your budget, and I can say yes or no if they're, that's what I would do. I would recommend that person do that.
Great, thank you. Okay, we still have plenty of time. If you have additional questions, you can go ahead and type them in now. That way, while we have James on the line, he can answer, what he can. So if you have any questions, please include them in the question and answer box.
While there is some silence, I would just also encourage you guys not to wait till the last minute to do your application. You should really be working on that now, so you have a good 2 to 3 weeks before it's due to sit down, come together as a group. Anyone who's worked on the application, you guys all get together, pull out the checklist, act like you're your own peer review panel, and rip your application apart and pretend you're us or the peer reviewers, and make sure that it's not lacking anything, it's reflective of what you want. Waiting till the last minute is a recipe for mistakes. Typos, not representing the problem correctly or how you want it to come across. It's better to get working on that right away. I also issue the caution of making sure that you're not just simply copying a previous application that you've submitted, because we can often tell, and duplicate applications are not allowed, regardless if you were funded or not. Pay attention to the font size, the page count, all of that. Remember this year, we're asking for abstracts for each purpose area, so there's a detailed template for that. It's also mentioned in the solicitation. Also remember that the executive summary is not going to be scored this year, and it's been renamed the application overview, but we're asking for the same exact information. So for those of you who are on the phone that have done CTAS applications in the past, the application overview is no different from the executive summary. We just renamed it, and we decided not to score it this year. Is there another question?
Yes. We have a question from Richard Knott. Is the $20,000 travel expense a minimum or a maximum?
It's a minimum. You can ask for more than that, but we absolutely must see $20,000. Or and when it comes down to budget review, we'll reach back out to you and say, okay, before we can improve your budget and move it forward, we need you to increase this to $20,000. So it's at a minimum.
Okay, great. Another question from Paul. Would re-entry activities for education and prevention for both community members returning and family/communities allowed?
I can't say for sure on that. Paul, if you could email me that question directly and I'll get you an answer. My email address should be listed out there, but again, it's james.smith12@usdoj.gov. I don't want to speculate on that one, so I'd rather you email me that question and I'll make sure to get you a definitive answer.
All right, next question from Jamie. Other attachments as necessary on page 15. What does as necessary mean? Do you want tribes to submit all of these documents listed? MOUs, resumes for key personnel, letters of support, job descriptions, for requested positions?
So it really depends on what purpose area you're applying for and what kind of project you're doing. Not all of these things may be relevant. So as necessary is simply another way of saying if it's actionable, meaning that if you're applying and you are requesting positions and you already have people in mind, and yes, you would want to include position descriptions, you'd want to include those folks' resumes. But if you're not applying for a position, and you're not looking to hire anyone, then submitting a resume and a position description wouldn't be a necessary attachment for you. Hopefully that makes sense. So it really depends on what you're looking to get funded for, what purpose area you're applying for, if all of these attachments make sense. It may be things that aren't listed here that you may need to attach as well. So, only you know that based on the project that you're doing. But I wouldn't say that all of these things are a requirement. It just really depends on what you're seeking funding for.
Okay, great. Next question. Is 2017 CTAS going to be submitted on GMS, or is it submitted on grants.gov?
It's GMS. Grants.gov is just the way that we advertise the solicitation on there, and you can view the solicitation. But GMS is where you must submit your application. And while I'm on that topic, I want everyone to know that if you go to the Tribal Justice website, you'll see some samples of some of the documents that you'll actually need to use for your application. However, those are just sample documents. Without a doubt, whenever there's a question about accessing a document, go into GMS and download it, because that will be the document that you'll be using. There's also been a lot of questions about a sample budget workbook. We never put that out there. If you want to see what it looks like, just simply log into GMS and act like you're about to do your application, and you can download it to your computer and save it, and you can see how it works. I also know that in the solicitation, the link for the application overview, I think, is broken, and it still may mention executive summary. That's nothing to panic about. If you go into GMS and you click on application overview, you'll be able to download the correct form, regardless of the solicitation link being inaccurate. So I just wanted to put that out there because I know that that's popped up, but it's not anything to panic about, because all of the documents you need are in GMS, and you can go there and upload or download the final documents that you would need to work on. So basically, when in doubt, go into GMS and download everything that's in there.
Okay, we still have more time. If anyone else has questions to ask, please do so at this time.
I want to end at about 40. I just say that, like out loud. If you still have time for questions, however, if we don't get any more questions by 1:40, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. But we'll still hang on right now. But always remember, if you think of questions after the fact, you have the Tribal Grants email address, you have my email address. You can ask questions at any point. Don't feel bad if you forget something or can't think of something while you're on here right now. You'll have plenty of opportunities to ask questions. Also, just remember to make sure that your SAMS information is up to date and that you're registered in GMS for a GMS account. You want to start checking on those things now. You don't want to wait till the last minute. If someone knows that they're going to have problems, internet access problems, and you need to do a paper application, you want to look in the solicitation for that date, because you'll be requesting that through the COPS Response Center. And you don't want to wait till the last minute. If you are submitting a paper application, it must be postmarked by the application deadline. We don't have to receive it on that day as long as it's postmarked by that day. Yeah, I just actually said it.
As a reminder also, everyone who is in attendance today, you will receive a follow-up email The email will come from the Tribal Youth Training and Technical Assistance Center. The follow-up email will include a recording link to this webinar today, and it will also include a evaluation link. I encourage everyone to please fill out the evaluation link with your opinions regarding today's webinar. We value that feedback. It helps us plan for webinars next year.
Also remember, if you accidentally submit 2 applications, we're going to take the one submitted the most recently. So basically, like the last submitted application will be the one that's taken. Again, we have a few more minutes. If we don't get any additional questions, I'm going to end at 1:40. But remember, again, you can always ask questions at any point via any of those email addresses that I provided to you. And for those of you who are providing those nice comments of thanking me and my colleague, this is our job. This is what we love to do. Anytime we can be in any help of assistance, that's what we're going to do. So you're very welcome, and I do appreciate your kind words. My email address again is james.smith12@usdoj.gov, and my colleague is typing it in the chat box for you all now. But it's james.smith12@usdoj.gov. You can also email tribalgrants@usdoj.gov for OBW questions or any other purpose area questions. Excuse me. Also remember that on the Tribal Justice website, there is a past successful application packet that includes redacted applications from each purpose area that has been successful, meaning they've been awarded. That is by no means anything to copy, but it's just to give you a good idea of what we look for in good applications. And I'm sure I may see some of you guys in Columbia, South Carolina next week for those who were selected to attend the Accessing Grant Funds workshop. I'll be there, so you can certainly use that opportunity to ask me questions there as well.
I have 12:40 on my clock, so I want to thank everybody for joining today. Again, as a reminder, you will receive a follow-up email from the Tribal Youth TTA Center email address. It will include the recording link of today's webinar, an evaluation survey link, and also the PowerPoint slides that James went over with. Again, you can contact him at james.smith12@usdoj.gov with any additional questions. Thank you and have a great day.